Okay, there we go. All right, everybody. Well, welcome once again. Another Tuesday live training, coming and going very fast. I'm really fortunate this week here in Ireland. We have actually St. Patrick's Day is a really big thing here. So we have a double bank holiday. That means I am off officially, even though I won't really be off, but I'll be off officially on not only Thursday, but Friday as well. So it's a 4 day weekend. So, yeah, happy days. So, what are we going to get into tonight, guys? Tonight, we are going to get into self sabotage. Self sabotage, as I like to say, the killer of personal development. Because what happens? Does self sabotage tend to kick in when things are going poorly? Well, obviously not. No, whenever things are going too well, well, that's when self sabotage tends to kick in. But there's a psychological reason for that, and it all has to do with basically your self image. You see, we all have a self image of where we believe we need to be or where we belong, um, as far as how we see ourselves in our relationships, our level of health and fitness, our growth, and our finances. Or another way of saying it is basically what we believe we deserve. But again, that's all tied into the self-image. And whenever you start to excel and go over that vision or picture you have in your mind as far as what you believe you deserve, well, things get this begin to become very uncomfortable. So why do we really do this though? Besides, the self-image, if we really dig deep, why do we think we tend to self-sabotage? Does anybody want to take a guess at it? You all know it.
I would say it's probably the fear of the unknown, being safe in your zone as you are. It's being comfortable. If you're comfortable, some people don't want to really budge from there.
Exactly. That's a big part of it. That's a great way of saying it. Anybody else?
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure. There's another one. But yeah, and all you're both right, and any example similar would be correct. Oh, here's Annabelle. Okay. But in reality, it's all about basically, again, when we kind of excel where we think we belong, but deep down, it's all about the pain and pleasure principle. If you really think about it, what happens, when we start to excel or create change in our life? Well, change can be extremely painful. Because again, it's the fear of the unknown. It's putting yourself into a different environment, and that could be extremely painful for some people, for all of us to a degree, depending on how your associations are with change. But there's a saying: nothing is so painful to the human mind as great and sudden change. But the opposite holds true as well. You see, even though change is very painful, because few people really have the courage to seek out change, most people won't ever make any change or any lasting change anyway until the pain exceeds the pain of change. But at the end of the day, whether you're linking up pain to changing or linking up, pain to staying the same, it all comes down to that pain pleasure principle. So why don't we change? Okay, so if we've identified that, here's Linda, lovely. So if we've already identified as far as the fact that it's all linked up to pain and pleasure, and Change can be very painful. What's some examples? So, well, just like we were saying earlier, we might not call it pain. We might say, it's the fear of being rejected. Um, self-doubt. Self-doubt can be extremely painful. Fear of failure, as Sean had mentioned there. But it all comes down to that pain. No matter how you want to label it, it all comes down to pain. And I think it's really relevant and is really critical that we all understand this, because when we're working with clients, you're going to see that once they start to get out of their comfort zone, when they start to maybe do a little bit better than they were, in their own minds, kind of had that belief where they thought they deserved to be, it's going to become uncomfortable. And that's uncomfortable is just another word for pain. So it's really important that, we're aware of it within ourselves, but equally obviously aware of the fact that within the clients that we're working with, because it's our job to support them, obviously. And part of supporting them is identifying the reasons why maybe they're not producing the results, why they're not, achieving those goals that they've set for themselves. So that's going to be the topic tonight. We're going to take a deeper look at self-sabotage. Why we self-sabotage, and specifically why we self-sabotage when we start to improve. Because again, you never self-sabotage when, things are just going okay. The only time you tend to self-sabotage is primarily always going to be when you start to excel. Now, I know myself, I'm extremely guilty of this throughout my life. There's been times either, and it affects all the areas, when a relationship is going too well, rather it be, a romantic relationship, or rather it be a business relationship or a friendship or whatever the case may be. Sometimes when they're going too well, again, fear of the unknown, you tend to start sabotaging. Or with your health, how many times have you gone on a diet and something happens and you just go off the deep end? You sabotage yourself. So again, these are the things that we want to really take a look at, because you're going to experience it within when you're using the system, because the system is all about that improvement. But you're going to experience when you're working with clients as well. And it's really important that you guys are aware of it. And again, that you're prepared when you start to see it happening with some of the clients that you're working with. So, do you guys believe that you self-sabotage? Anybody got any examples?
Yeah, I have one.
Good man, Steve. I knew I could count on you.
No, I have more than one actually.
Whenever I ask, I get a pit in my stomach. That's a fear. Nobody's going to answer.
No, I mean, well, the classic self-sabotaging question or word I said to myself were, I don't have enough knowledge. I'm not good enough. I'm not an expert. What do I know? Sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm quite good at that.
Yeah, that comes down to your entire presentation to a degree, all about the imposter syndrome, I believe.
Yes, it does indeed.
Not feeling good enough. And you're 100% right. We're all guilty of it. We're all put in that positions again. And that's always when there's some type of change going on, when we tend to move in outside of our comfort zone. Whether it be through negative self-talk because we're asking, the wrong questions, or, we feel as if we're really not coming down to the self-image, that we really feel that we're not good enough to be, or we don't really deserve to have the level of success that we're starting to create for ourselves. So specifically with relationships, I want to put the focus on the 4 key areas when it comes to self-sabotage. Myself, I know I'm very guilty of this from time to time. Different times in my, rather again, like I say, either the family relationships, friends, romantic, business relationships specifically. I got to admit, that's my personal thing. I've done that numerous times throughout my career. Things are going a little bit too good. I'm exceeding maybe what my expectations were, and I'll tend to start self-sabotaging. But what I want to do is take a look at, 5 different ways that we tend to self-sabotage. Just to give some examples, these are all things we need to look out for when we're working with the clients, and obviously within ourselves as well. So, what's one thing? Well, always looking for what's wrong, trying to find, fault. Again, I'm guilty of this. I have to assume some of yous out there are guilty of it, if not all of yous are guilty of it as well. But again, when the relationships are going too good, it doesn't matter what type of relationship. Well, maybe, a form of self-sabotage, we start trying to look for all the faults in the individual, all the things that we can justify sabotaging that relationship. Or, well, maybe we kind of, and this is my worst one probably, expecting the individual to think and act like you. Yeah. Annabelle's laughing at that one. You do that, Annabelle?
All right.
No, do you do that? You're okay. You feel free to speak up. But
I
anyway,
didn't realise I wasn't on mute. I do apologise.
not at all, not at all, Annabelle. You're more than welcome to join in. It's great to see you here, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. You too, Patrick. I'll mute myself now.
But yeah, no, this is one with me personally. Again, I tend to do. I probably tend to do all of these things, to be truthful. But we kind of have expectations, and we expect people to always see the things we see them, or think the way that we think. And especially when it comes to self-sabotage, again, our subconscious mind, our brain, because it's uncomfortable, it's painful, it's looking to get out of there. It's looking to run away. It's kind of the whole concept of fight or flight. I'm sure you've all heard that before, but that's primarily what you're doing. You're looking to get out of it because, again, it's uncomfortable. So we start to look for reasons, even unconsciously. But again, you start to, expecting people to think and act like you. Or maybe you read too much into things. Because again, your brain is searching. It's looking for a reason to sabotage that relationship. So maybe, you tend to read too much into every little thing that individual is doing. Maybe, well, why are they doing this? Well, they're doing this because of that type of thing. And the reality is you really don't have a clue. That's just your mind working against you, trying to figure a way to self-sabotage that relationship. And again, when you're working with clients, you'll notice these things. You'll be having a one-to-one session, and you'll be having some interaction. And when the relationships, you'll be going through the dashboard, and you'll see some problems, occurring in the dashboard. And they'll start to make up excuses. They'll start telling you, well, this happened, and it was all because they were doing this or they were doing that. And it'll be either that they were expecting the individual to basically think like they did, or maybe they'll be reading into things a little bit, too much, looking for a reason. Or by primarily, maybe they're just looking for something for that individual is doing wrong. But again, and you'll see this a lot. If you really get familiar with the dashboard and working with clients, you'll see it a lot when the relationship starts to really go take things to the next level. I've seen that many times. You'll notice things will be okay, all right, up and down, whatever, but fairly steady. And then they'll have a burst where things go very well. But then all of a sudden, self-sabotage will kick in. Why? It comes into what we talked about at the beginning. In their mind, they have an expectation of what they believe they deserve in that particular relationship. And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be with a child, it could be with a business, it could be with a friend. But again, that's just the way, unfortunately, we're kind of wired up. So, or you'll see a lot of game playing. This isn't something I really do, to be honest with you, but I'm sure some of you have experienced this, where your mind or will start coming up with different games, test, to put the person through. Or maybe you're just expecting, way too much. Your expectations really don't align up with reality. So again, these are just some examples, some things to look out for specifically around the relationships. And again, keep a close eye, notice it in your own dashboard. Like if anybody's been doing this for a significant period of time, unless when they started, the relationship was really strong for them, because some people just naturally have strong relationships. But if you're like a lot of people, when you started and there was one or two relationships in the dashboard that were maybe not that great, but over a period of time, through the consistent action, through the focus, you start to improve. I bet you if you look at that, you'll notice at some stage when things were going well, you started to self-sabotage. Again, because things became uncomfortable. You had pushed yourself to the next level. In your own mind, you have a vision of what you believe that you deserve, and it's uncomfortable. So you start to self-sabotage. So what about the health? This is something I know I've done many times. And I tend to believe that everybody here is probably, maybe not, maybe you're just, got great metabolism and you never had any issues with your weight or any negative habits you're looking to change or anything like that. But I know that myself personally, whenever, luckily, fortunately enough, I've by using this system, I've managed to get my weight under control for quite a few years now. But I can tell you in the early days, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I would be on different bad diets, trying different things. I'd start to lose a little bit of weight, but then all of a sudden, I'd be doing great. I'd lose maybe a stone and a half, and then something would happen. And I wouldn't even be able to identify it. But what would happen is, well, I would tend to basically, just start, either, stress eating, where I would just kind of, for whatever reason, something, your mind looks for excuses. Something doesn't go right with work. You're stressed out, start to eat. You have an argument with somebody or whatever, either the kids or your wife or your husband, partner, whatever the case may be. What do? You start stress eating. But again, those are all just excuses. Those are all just games that your mind is playing with you. And again, you'll notice this with the individuals that you're working with if you work with those individuals long enough. Or you might be doing really well with, you might have gotten past the addiction stage. Because I know with smoking, what happens is, well, yeah, you do have that physical addiction to the nicotine. But how many times have you come across somebody, or maybe it's happened to you personally, where you'll be well over that hump? Maybe you've gone 30 days, 40 days, 50 days without a cigarette. But then all of a sudden something happens. Has nothing to do with, the smoking. But, again, something doesn't go right. Maybe you get an unexpected bill, you have a financial crisis, something happens in the relationship, something happens at work, whatever the case may be. But all of a sudden you find yourself turning back to those cigarettes. It's just all a form of self-sabotage. So, and what about the personal growth? You know, what happens with ways that we sabotage, self-sabotage specifically, our personal growth? Well, the biggest killer I find anyway, of ways that we tend to self-sabotage our personal growth is through procrastination. You know, we tend to make up excuses, you know, or I'll do it tomorrow, you know, or I'm too tired, you know, whatever the case may be. But again, it's just a form of procrastination. And procrastination, without question, is the biggest form of self-sabotage. Whenever you get yourself to a certain level as far as your growth. So it's something to be very, very conscious of. And I suppose the best thing that you could take away from this session today is the awareness, because it's going to happen. And that's okay. It happens to everybody. Just like I said at the beginning, it's just the way that we're wired up internally. But if you're aware of it, you can identify it. And if you can identify it, you can address it. So that's why it's, you know, all these things are so important. It's not as if now that, you know, we've had this session, it's never going to happen, obviously. But you'll become very aware of it. And as a consultant, I think it's really critical that you make sure that you learn to identify it with the clients you're working with. So again, that you can make them aware of what they're doing. So, and what about the money goals? You know, I think this is something that we're all probably very guilty of. You know, different things that we do that, you know, when we start getting out of that um that stage of where we think we belong, we start taking things to the next level financially. Well, then all of a sudden we get all these crazy desires to go ahead and we start making all these crazy impulse buys. You know, we don't even know why, but we get these urges, you know, we're doing really good. And all of a sudden the mind will start playing tricks on us that, you know, come on, you've been really good, you deserve it. You know, go ahead, you can buy, it's not a big deal. But again, that's all a form of self-sabotage. So how do we stop? Now that we know what self-sabotage is all about, we have a general idea why we do it. How do we stop it? And basically, how do we stop it specifically with our system? One of the best things about our system is the fact that you will definitely identify self-sabotage. But if you're using it correctly, it's been designed in such a way that it'll really help you, and it'll help you with your clients to go ahead and stop that self-sabotage before things get out of control. The only way it won't work is that when it becomes painful, because remember, this all has to do with pain and pleasure, becomes painful, becomes uncomfortable, you stop using it. But the system is designed in such a way, because again, neuroassociative conditioning, the entire dashboard, everything we're doing, focus, balance, and purpose, it's all blended in with neuroassociative conditioning. And neuroassociative conditioning is a great, great tool to stop self-sabotage. So, positive self-talk, that's one way to go ahead and obviously beat self-sabotage. You know, you have to be very careful. That's one of the biggest killers of personal development. Things start going too well, all of a sudden the negative self-talk starts kicking in. Why? Again, because, well, you don't feel you deserve it deep down. You know, your self-image is at a stage where you're at one level, you've already broke through, things become uncomfortable, you don't feel you deserve it. So what happens? Negative self talk comes in. So the only way to combat that is with some form of positive self-talk. So I would encourage you to focus when you're talking about when you're looking at the different areas. The point system is very good. Like I've given you examples before that, you know, when primarily I don't want to do something, I tend to focus on, you know, the point, what that's gonna mean to me, you know, the benefit of how I'm gonna feel once I achieve that quarter point. As silly as that sounds, but through the power of repetition and doing it over and over again, it becomes extremely, extremely effective. So again, that's just one simple way. But again, be very, very aware of the negative self-talk. When you break through, or when that client breaks through a certain level in any of the areas, I can guarantee you at some stage, negative self-talk will come in. And the best way to combat that, again, is through positive self-talk. Improve your self-esteem. So, how do we improve our self-esteem? Because again, it all comes down to your self-image, where you believe you deserve to be in anything, whether it be the relationships, your health, your growth, your finances. In your mind, you've got an image of primarily where you feel, what you think you deserve in that particular area. And that all is tied in with your self esteem. So it stands to reason, if you improve your self esteem, well, will you go ahead and, you know, eliminate or at least reduce the amount of self sabotage? Well, one thing I can guarantee you, with the system, by using the dashboard over a period of time, you are guaranteed to improve your self esteem. Unless you stop using it, obviously. But I mean, think about it, it stands to reason. Anybody here who's been using it for a period of time, like Sean, I'm going to call on you if you don't mind. And apologies for not giving me any notice I'm going to do this ahead of time, but it just kind of dawned on me. You've been using it the longest, I believe, out of this group here. How long?
Yeah, you're setting a mode now, aren't you?
Yeah. How long have you been using it, Sean?
It's coming up to 2 years now.
Yeah, I think you're just under 2 years. I think
Yeah, I think it's 2 years in May.
yeah. So if you remember when you and I started working together, let's just focus on your health for an example. Where do you think your self-esteem was with your health?
Between I won't do it and I can't do it.
Yeah.
I was really bad. I was just lazy, and it was. And then at the moment, it's. I would say I can do it. I will do it. Yes, I did it because I feel it's now a habit. But I had a long time when I procrastinated, and I would say I was stuck between steps 2 and 3 for 8, 9 months.
Yeah.
I just didn't get, and it wasn't when I actually took the first step, it just rolled on and I just got better and better at it. But I found that I did any excuse I could come up with not to do it, I would find it. And if it just meant, oh, I'll do this for someone else, and I said, oh, I'll get this done first, I'll do that. I would come up with any excuse I could not to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember. But the one thing I give you a lot of credit for, no matter how hard it was, you stuck to it.
Yeah.
And because you stuck to it, you've seen improvement. You've seen in the dashboard, Like in the early days when it came to certain areas in the health, you were, well, I don't want to say you were doing bad, but you weren't as strong as you are today. No doubt about that. But through the consistent action, well, you noticed that you really could do it. It wasn't just an idea in your head. You had proof. You had proof in front of you through your averages, picking up, improving to the point where you can actually have physical data to support your belief. And when you have that, that instills a belief in you. Well, your self-esteem has got to improve. And when your self-esteem improves on a consistent basis like that, it just gets easier and easier to go ahead and deal with any type of self-sabotage, because you've basically created the habits that went and instilled the belief system that you can do it. So now it's like, even if God forbid you were to have or any of us, me included, I used to have a terrible, terrible weight problem. But I know, because I've done it, where I've lost the weight and I've kept it off for 10 years now at this stage. If God forbid something happened and I piled on a bunch of weight, I really believe in my heart of hearts that I could go ahead and I could do it all again. Same thing with money. How many times have you heard the story of some wealthy individual that through whatever happens, through a change in the markets, through some tragedy, whatever, loses all his money, loses his business, but then he comes back bigger and better than he ever was before? That's because the self-esteem is there. They know they can do it. And once you know that, your self-esteem goes through the roof. And then it just gets easier and easier and makes self-sabotage harder and harder. So that's the point with the system, is by using taking that daily consistent action, tracking your progress, you're improving your self-image, your self-esteem all the time if you stick to it. So, but it's all about that consistency. You need.
The other thing I do like
Yeah.
is that you can look back at your data and you can think, look how far I've come from there to here. And I always get a nice smile when I actually, every so often, if I feel a little bit down with my weight, because I still have issues with my weight, I look back at my dashboard and think, there where I was then, and look at my weights and I think, look where I am now. It makes you feel so much better, and it gives you that motivation to carry on as well.
Absolutely. Good point. Great point. Now, well done, Sean. Sean did it. Actually, he's done amazing. It's unbelievable. Like, I don't know what it was. I remember recently coming across your very first photo that you had sent. And I look at that photo now and I see what you look like now. It's not even the same man. There's no question about it. I mean, you look literally 10 times better, but you feel better. And I can see it in your personality. I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your level of self-confidence. Everything.
Yeah, I lost over 50 pounds now, so I really am happy.
Which is
it's so much better. I feel so much happier. I feel much healthier. I'm a lot better when I go walking. I feel better in myself generally all around.
How many steps are you up to now, Sean?
I do a minimum of 12,000 a day. At the moment, I'm just short of 16,500 a day. My average for the month so far is about 17,000 a day. So I've got to go for a little walk in a minute just to get my steps back up.
Do you remember when we first started tracking?
500 steps a day if I was lucky.
Yeah, I remember, and that's okay. You start from where you are. But if you look at it in this short space of time, what you've achieved, and you do that consistently. But again, that's because you know you can do it now. You've created that habit. You've instilled the belief. So what's another way that I believe that our system will help not only you, but your clients to greatly reduce, if not eliminate, self-sabotage? Well, action. Action cures fear. And we've already identified self-sabotage. Basically, it's all to do with pain. Pain and fear are one and the same. So if you want to eliminate that fear, action will always, I have to give my wife credit for this one. My wife taught me that probably, I don't know if she really taught it to me, but she's instilled it in me because it was a saying her father used to say all the time. And that's one of my wife's one of her biggest sayings is action cures fear. She's always action, do something, work on it, do some type of action, do something, and that's just her mentality. But it's true. Whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, whenever you're feeling that, some sense of fear, whether it be failure, whether it be overwhelm, whether it be rejection, whatever the case may be, take action. Take massive amounts of action, because action will always cure fear. And again, that's what our system is. Our system is a tool to get you to take that daily, consistent action, which is always going to be required to go ahead and produce the lasting change, to produce the long-term results that both ourselves and our clients are looking to achieve. So again, that's just another way that basically our system has been designed to, again, combat, I suppose is the best word, combat self-sabotage. Another great way, and this has to do with primarily tracking all the ways that you've succeeded in the past. But again, if you're afraid of failure, if you're afraid of, not being able to produce that result, it says here, consider listing all the ways that you've succeeded in the past. But through our system, you're doing that. You're tracking your progress. You're noticing all the ways that you've succeeded in the past. But this is actually a great tip. So if you're struggling yourself, if you're working with somebody and they're struggling, again, whether it's a fear of failure or whatever, any type of fear, primarily, or some form of self-sabotage, get that person to get out a pen and paper and list all the ways that they've succeeded in the past. Or if they've been doing our system long enough, if you've been working with them, or if you yourself, open up previous dashboards. Just like Sean had mentioned there a little while ago, it's great to go back and look at all the progress, all the times that you succeeded in the past. Because again, that will eliminate or greatly reduce anyway that fear of failure. So, but we'll wrap it up with just a simple, a great thing to do is take it day by day. Especially in the early days. Even if when you start to get those negative thoughts in your head, or when you start to feel those feelings of self-sabotage sneaking in, just for today, I'm not going to self-sabotage anything. Not in the relationships, not with your self-esteem, not your plans or my goals, not your hopes or your dreams. I think that's actually quite catchy. But the challenge would be, try it. Set a goal at the beginning of the day. Say to yourself, no matter what happens today, I'm not going to sabotage today. Don't think about, what's going to happen next week, next month, next year. Take it one day at a time and set that goal that just for that one day, just for today, I'm not going to self-sabotage. Pay attention. But again, what does that have to do? That all has to do with your focus. So one final thing, and this really, it's not really so much self-sabotage, but I suppose it could be. But primarily, it's just basically the way that, you know, we instill behavior. Everything starts with the belief, which primarily, you know, is going to basically influence our thoughts. And, you know, from there, it's going to, you know, your thoughts are going to basically have everything to do with your feelings. It's going to dictate how you feel, and how you feel is going to dictate how you behave. And how you behave, well, that's going to basically instill a belief, which is going to influence your thoughts. It's going to influence your feeling, which is going to definitely drive your behavior. And it's just a circle that goes around and around and around. But the saying that I like, your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. So that's Gandhi, by the way. So look, guys, I appreciate the participation. I appreciate everybody showing up tonight. Hopefully you got some value out of tonight's session. But at the end of the day, just be aware. Awareness is always the key. Be aware of it, self-sabotaging yourself, and be aware of self-sabotage when you're working with the clients. So other than that, we're going to wrap it up. As always, I appreciate everybody being here. Questions, comments, concerns after this, feel free to go ahead and contact me directly. I'll be available for at least the next half hour or so. And other than that, I hope everybody has a great evening. All right. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.